It began quietly, not in mosques or mass rallies, but in bedrooms, libraries, and late-night Google searches across the United Kingdom. In small towns and sprawling cities, behind closed doors and glowing laptop screens, something unexpected was happening. People who had never met, who came from different backgrounds, accents, and beliefs, were all asking the same silent question: is there more to life than this? For decades, Britain had been known as a nation moving away from faith. Church pews emptied, Sunday sermons turned into nostalgic memories, and spirituality became something people practiced without labels. But beneath that quiet detachment, a new pulse began to beat, subtle at first, then louder. By the early 2000s, surveys showed a surprising pattern. Thousands of Britons were not abandoning religion altogether. They were embracing Islam. The numbers were undeniable. Research by the organization Faith Matters revealed that in 2001, there were around 60,000 converts to Islam living in the UK. Less than a decade later, that number had crossed 100,000, and today, it continues to rise by an estimated 5,000 new converts each year. The trend was even more remarkable for who these converts were. Not immigrants, not born Muslims, but native Britons, often young, educated, and predominantly female. It wasn't a mass movement led by preachers or celebrities. It was personal, intimate, hidden between the lines of ordinary lives. Take the story of Lucy, a 26-year-old from Manchester. She had grown up in what she described as a typical British middle-class home. Christmas dinners, summer festivals, and no real talk of God. Religion was something for grandparents, she once said in an interview. We just believed in being good people. But as she moved through university and into a corporate job, she felt a strange emptiness, like something fundamental was missing. I had the degree, the flat, the friends, the parties, but when I came home at night, I felt hollow. Her turning point didn't come from a book or a preacher. It came from a friend, a Muslim colleague who would pause everything during lunch breaks to pray. He never invited me to Islam, Lucy recalled. He just lived it, calm, disciplined, content. I wanted that peace. Stories like Lucy's are becoming increasingly common. Across London, Birmingham, and Glasgow, young Britons are finding Islam not through compulsion, but through curiosity. They see Muslims fasting during Ramadan, praying in crowded stations, refusing arrogance in a world that rewards ego, and they ask themselves what makes them so grounded. For many, the internet became the first mosque, a virtual place of discovery. YouTube lectures, TikTok testimonials, Reddit forums, small windows into a faith that, for decades, had been portrayed as foreign or even frightening. But through first-hand stories, that perception began to shift. A teenager in Leeds would stumble upon a revert vlog describing peace after conversion. A woman in London would read the Quran in translation just to understand what Muslims believe, and end up weeping by the third chapter. The spark was spreading, not through dawah campaigns, but through quiet awakenings. Sociologists studying the phenomenon were baffled at first. How could Islam, a religion so misunderstood in Western media, attract such steady interest? But when researchers spoke to converts, a consistent pattern emerged: clarity, purpose, and belonging. One woman told the BBC, "Islam gave me rules." Yes, but those rules felt like protection, not prison. For the first time, I knew who I was, another convert explained. In a society that tells you to follow your desires, Islam tells you to discipline them. That's not restriction, that's freedom. Many converts described their lives before Islam as chaotic. Endless cycles of stress, relationships without depth, and consumerism without satisfaction. The more they achieved materially, the emptier they felt spiritually. And when they encountered Islam, often through kindness, or through witnessing Muslims pray in public, something inside them recognized the truth. But the story of British reverts isn't one of sudden miracles. It's a journey of searching, resisting, and rediscovering meaning. Back in London, Lucy began reading the Quran. She expected a complex theological book full of foreign ideas. What she found instead was something piercingly intimate, a voice that spoke directly to her soul. It was like someone was answering the questions I didn't even know how to ask, she said. She'd underlined verses about gratitude, mercy, and justice. all while sipping coffee in her kitchen. Unsure of what was happening inside her heart, around her, life continued as usual: pubs, politics, pop culture. But Lucy was changing quietly. She started waking up early, not to check emails, but to watch the sunrise. She began thinking about purpose, death, and eternity, topics her friends found uncomfortable. "I realized how much noise there is in modern life," she said. "We never stop. We never think." That stillness became her first act of worship. By the time Lucy walked into her local mosque for the first time, she was trembling. "I'd never been in a mosque before," she recalled. "I thought people would stare, but they didn't. They smiled." An elderly woman helped her with her scarf. Another handed her tea, and someone whispered softly, "You're home now." Lucy wasn't alone. According to data, more than 60% of British converts to Islam are women, many of them under 30. For some, the hijab became an act of rebellion, not against freedom, but against the pressure to perform, to please, to expose. Wearing hijab felt like saying, "I'm more than my appearance," one woman told researchers. Others were drawn by Islam's emphasis on equality and justice. They found peace in the simplicity of prayer, the humility of fasting, and the logic of monotheism. For many, Islam wasn't an escape from modern life. It was the antidote to it. Even as conversion rates rise, the process remains deeply personal. Each story is different, but all share the same rhythm: confusion, curiosity, conviction. In cities across the UK, this quiet revolution continues. From the echo of the Adhan in East London to Friday prayers in converted community halls in Birmingham, the new Muslims of Britain are redefining what faith looks like in the modern world. They are doctors, students, artists, and teachers. They are the sons and daughters of skeptics, the grandchildren of secularists, and yet they have chosen to believe. The media still paints Islam in shades of fear and politics, but in reality, its most powerful movement in the UK isn't about ideology. It's about heart. It's about people like Lucy, who looked for peace and found it where she least expected. And as the sun sets over London, the call to prayer rises once again, echoing softly between glass towers and cobblestone alleys. Each voice that whispers, "Allahu Akbar," tonight adds to a quiet revolution, a generation no longer running from faith, but running toward it, because sometimes the loudest awakenings happen in silence. When the Shahada is whispered, those few words that change everything, the moment feels like peace. But what comes after is rarely easy. For many new Muslims in the UK, the journey doesn't end with belief. It begins there, in the quiet moments after conversion, when the echoes of La ilaha illallah fade, and the world starts asking questions. For Lucy, that first week after her conversion felt like stepping into sunlight, and then realizing how bright it really was. "I felt reborn," she said, "but I also felt exposed." She hadn't told her family yet. She practiced her prayers in whispers, her hijab hidden in her bag. At work, she smiled through the usual chatter about Friday drinks and weekend plans, pretending nothing had changed. But inside, everything had. "It's strange," she said. "You spend your whole life trying to find yourself, and the moment you do, people start treating you like a stranger." Across the UK, thousands of new Muslims know that feeling intimately. Their faith brings clarity, but it also tests their courage. According to studies by Faith Matters and the BBC, many converts describe facing a form of social exile after embracing Islam. Parents confused, friends distant, co-workers uncomfortable. It isn't hostility most of the time. It's alienation. "People don't shout at you," one convert said. "They just stop understanding you." The hardest moments aren't public. They're private. The dinner table conversations, the awkward silences, the subtle jokes. When Lucy finally told her parents, her mother froze. "She thought I'd joined something extreme," Lucy said softly. She cried, not because she hated Islam, but because she didn't know it. It took months of conversations, tears, and patience to bridge the gap. Lucy would show her verses from the Quran about kindness to parents, about compassion and gratitude. Slowly, her mother began to see that this new faith hadn't taken her daughter away. It had brought her closer to humility, peace and purpose, but not every story ends so gently. In Birmingham, 23-year-old Adam, a university student who grew up atheist, described how his father threw him out of the house the day he said he had accepted Islam. "He told me I'd betrayed our family," Adam said. He said, "We don't do religion here." For weeks, Adam slept on friends' sofas, praying quietly at dawn and wondering if he had made a mistake. But every time doubt whispered, peace answered louder. "When I put my head on the ground in sujud," he said, "I felt home, and even if I didn't have one." These are not isolated stories. Behind the statistics, the 5,000 new Muslims every year, the growing communities, there is a private revolution of hearts struggling to fit in a world that doesn't know how to understand them yet. It's not just family, it's identity. Many British converts describe living in a space between two worlds, not fully Western anymore, but not fully Eastern either. The moment they convert, their old social codes dissolve. Parties, dating, alcohol, gossip, everything they once considered normal now feels foreign. But at the same time, they're not born into Muslim culture either. They don't speak Arabic fluently. They make mistakes in prayer. They feel watched by both sides. "You're too Muslim for your old friends and too Western for your new ones," one revert joked. "It's like being a bridge that nobody wants to cross." For women, that tension can be even more visible. Wearing hijab in the UK still feels like an act of defiance. The Faith Matters report noted that more than 60% of British converts are women, and many face public scrutiny for their choice. Lucy remembered the first day she wore hers to work. "It was terrifying," she said. "I walked in and the room went quiet. Someone said, 'You look different.' They didn't mean it kindly, but she didn't remove it. I wasn't covering because I hated myself," she said. "I was covering because I'd finally learned to love myself beyond how I looked." Her decision sparked whispers, rumors, and even an awkward meeting with HR about dress code sensitivity. Yet, despite everything, she smiled. "Every time I put on my hijab," she said, "I remember I'm choosing something bigger than comfort. I'm choosing conviction." That quiet conviction is what defines the new generation of British Muslims. They are not converts out of compulsion. They are seekers who have faced the loneliness of truth and still embraced it. In a study conducted by researcher Kevin Bryce, converts spoke about the sense of empowerment they found in Islam's clarity. "There's no confusion," one woman said. "Islam gives you the blueprint. You just have to follow it. A world full of chaos, that's peace. But peace, like faith, demands patience." Adam, the student from Birmingham, eventually found a local mosque that became his home. "They didn't judge me," he said. "They taught me how to pray, helped me find a place to stay. They treated me like family." His voice softened. "That's when I realized this ummah isn't just a word. It's real." For converts across Britain, those community spaces, mosques, Islamic centers, and especially revert support circles, have become lifelines. Groups like the New Muslim Circle, Islamic Diversity Center, and local mosque networks offer mentorship, friendship, and education. "You can't just hand someone a Quran and expect them to survive," said one mentor. "They need belonging, and that belonging is growing. Walk into a Friday prayer in East London or Manchester today, and you'll see faces that reflect every corner of the world: African, Arab, South Asian, and now increasingly white British. They stand shoulder to shoulder, reciting the same verses, facing the same Qibla. It's a quiet miracle, unity in a society that worships individualism. Still, the path is not without shadows. The media's portrayal of Islam often turns converts into headlines, not humans. When news stories focus on extremism, many converts feel personally attacked. "People assume you've been brainwashed," said Lucy. "They don't realize Islam didn't erase my brain, it healed my heart." This clash between image and reality pushes many reverts to take on unexpected roles: educators, ambassadors, storytellers. They become living counter-narratives, showing through their behavior what Islam truly is. One revert put it beautifully. "I realize I don't need to argue for Islam, I just need to embody it. And that embodiment has power." When Lucy's mother finally visited a mosque open day, something she'd refused. For months, she walked in nervously. The smell of incense, the soft murmur of Quran recitation, and the sight of smiling faces disarmed her. Everyone was kind, she said later. I expected strangers, but I found warmth. That day, she hugged her daughter and whispered, "Now I understand." Moments like that are happening across the UK. Small reconciliations that don't make headlines but change hearts. In schools, workplaces, and neighborhoods, converts are quietly transforming how Islam is seen, not through debate, but through character. They are the bridge between faith and modern Britain, fluent in both worlds, loyal to both truths. As the number of reverts grows each year, something deeper is also growing. A British Islam rooted not in heritage, but in choice. It's not inherited, it's discovered. It's not a tradition passed down. It's a truth found on one's own, and that makes it powerful. Lucy, now years into her journey, says she no longer feels like she left her old life behind. She feels like she finally found the meaning it was missing. People think conversion is about changing who you are, she said. But for me, it was about becoming who I was always meant to be. Her words echo the voices of thousands, quiet, unseen, but rising. They are not revolutionaries. They are not fanatics. They are simply people who looked at the world and saw noise, and then looked at Islam and found peace. As the sun sets over Birmingham, over London, over the small towns of Wales and Scotland, new Muslims across the UK roll out their prayer mats. Some pray alone in their rooms, others in mosques filled with hundreds. Different accents, different stories, but one purpose. And in that stillness, between sujood and silence, one truth binds them all. You don't have to be born into Islam to belong in it. You just have to seek and keep walking, even when the world doesn't understand. It's Friday in London. Rain drizzles over the city, the kind of gray calm that makes everything feel like a movie scene. At a small converted warehouse in East London, a crowd gathers. Inside, the smell of fresh carpet and cardamom tea fills the air. Men and women sit together, some with accents from Pakistan or Somalia, others from Liverpool, Glasgow, or Bristol. There are hijabs and hoodies, Qurans and iPhones. A call to prayer echoes through the hall, and among the rows stands a young man with pale skin, auburn hair and trembling hands. His name is James, and this is his first Jumu'ah as a Muslim. When the Imam's voice fills the air, "O mankind, we created you from a single soul." James feels his throat tighten. Around him, hundreds bow in unison, a rhythm so natural, so synchronized, it feels like the heartbeat of something ancient and eternal. And in that moment, he realizes what every new Muslim in the UK eventually does. He is not alone. For decades, Islam in Britain was seen as an immigrant religion, carried by communities from South Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. But in recent years, something extraordinary has happened. The next generation of Muslims in the UK no longer fits one story. They are mixed race, multi-ethnic, multilingual, and increasingly, they are converts. A report by Faith Matters revealed that more than 100,000 Britons have embraced Islam, with an estimated 5,000 new reverts every year. The numbers are growing steadily, not through mass movements, but through word-of-mouth relationships and quiet transformation. In an era where religion is supposed to be fading, Islam in Britain is doing the opposite. It's rising. And what's most remarkable is who these converts are. They are teachers, journalists, engineers, athletes. They are the children of secular parents and the graduates of elite universities. Many are women, not oppressed, not coerced, but empowered. They are redefining what it means to be British and Muslim in the same breath. A 28-year-old woman named Aisha, formerly Claire, told The Guardian, "I didn't convert to escape modern life. I converted to understand it." She described Islam as the missing rhythm of a world addicted to noise. It's the only thing that tells you to stop, to pause, to remember why you exist. And that's the essence of the new wave of conversions in the UK. Not rebellion, not tradition, but rediscovery. In cities like Birmingham and Leicester, reverts are forming their own support networks, safe spaces where they can learn, share, and simply belong. One such group, the New Muslim Circle, meets every Sunday. Their sessions aren't lectures. They're lifelines. Converts come with questions. How do I tell my parents? Can I still go to my university reunion? How do I pray if I forget the Arabic? And they find comfort in realizing that everyone else has asked the same questions. It's not just about faith, says Yusuf, one of the mentors. It's about family. Because for many of them, their old family doesn't understand yet. But slowly, Britain is learning to understand every year. More mosques hold open days, welcoming non-Muslims to explore Islam beyond the headlines. In cities like Manchester and Cardiff, interfaith dialogues are growing. Schools invite imams and reverts to speak about their experiences. Even documentaries on the BBC now feature Muslim voices telling their own stories, not as outsiders, but as neighbors. What was once seen as foreign is quietly becoming familiar. Yet, this rise isn't just cultural, it's deeply spiritual. The new generation of British Muslims are bringing something unique to the faith: intentionality. They weren't born into it, they chose it. Every verse they read, every prayer they learn, every fast they observe, it's deliberate. It's conscious. They are Islam's first generation by choice. For them, Islam isn't inherited. It's discovered. And discovery always comes with devotion. When James, the young man from London, tells his story, he laughs softly. It started with a YouTube video, he says. A Muslim explained the purpose of life in 5 minutes. I'd never heard anything like it. It wasn't about fear or guilt. It was about balance, about peace. And that's what I wanted. His journey was quiet but transformative. He went from pubs to prayers, from parties to purpose. But when asked what the hardest part was, his answer wasn't what you'd expect. It wasn't giving things up, he says. It was realizing that what I gave up never gave me anything real in return. Across the UK, thousands echo that same realization. A doctor in Glasgow, a nurse in Leeds, a university student in Oxford, all discovering that faith isn't an escape from the modern world. It's a compass within it, and their presence is changing how Islam looks and feels in Britain. The British Muslim identity is no longer a contradiction. It's a new cultural chapter. You see it in art galleries hosting Islamic calligraphy exhibits, in pop-up iftar tents during Ramadan in Trafalgar Square, in Muslim fashion shows celebrating modesty without losing creativity. You see it in the way reverts speak, fluent in both British humor and Quranic wisdom, bridging two worlds that were once thought incompatible. Even the media is beginning to notice. When The Independent ran a headline calling Islam Britain's fastest growing faith, it wasn't exaggeration. The country that once saw religion as fading is now watching a faith revival, led not by preachers, but by seekers. And these seekers aren't converting to escape society. They're converting to rebuild it. They speak about charity, discipline, family, and service. They volunteer at food banks, organize youth programs, and work with refugees. Islam for them isn't just about personal peace, and it's about collective purpose. As one revert said, faith is how you build a better country, from the inside out. The generational impact is already visible. Children of converts are growing up bilingual in belief, knowing both Western freedom and Islamic values. They don't see contradiction in being Muslim and British. They see harmony. Their classrooms celebrate Eid alongside Christmas. Their parents discuss Quranic ethics and climate change in the same breath. They are Britain's bridge to a new kind of coexistence. But what makes this movement so powerful isn't just the statistics, it's the sincerity. Every convert story is different, yet they all end the same way, in gratitude. Gratitude for peace, for clarity, for finding something that doesn't vanish when the weekend ends. They are proof that in a world full of distraction, truth still whispers, and people still listen. As the sun sets over London again, thousands of Muslims across the UK gather for prayer. Some are lifelong believers, others are new. Among them stand men like James and women like Lucy, people who once walked through life searching for meaning and finally found it in submission. The Imam's voice rises. Indeed, in the remembrance of Allah, hearts find rest. They bow together, shoulder to shoulder. Different accents, but one rhythm, a rhythm that no orchestra could match. When the prayer ends, laughter fills the mosque. Someone pours tea. Someone else helps a new convert learn a verse. Outside, cars rush past and the world continues its noise. But inside there is quiet. Sacred, simple quiet. This is the sound of a new generation awakening. A generation not defined by race or religion, but by truth. A generation that didn't inherit Islam, it chose it. And as they step out into the London rain, you realize something profound. The story of Islam in Britain isn't about immigration anymore. It's about intention. It's about the people who looked at a restless world and decided to be still, who looked at a fading faith and decided to revive it, who looked at noise and found peace. Because the call to Islam was never about conquering nations. It was about conquering hearts. And in the hearts of this new generation of British Muslims, that call has finally been answered.